All right. Okay. And we thank him for coming out. He had called me earlier, as I had told you all. We want, what we did real quick was just introduce herself, and then you can take any questions from all of us.
Sorry that I was late. I had a breakfast meeting in Cantonment and a church function, a church service, and then on the grounds, dinner on the grounds after the church service up in Molino, or beyond Molino. So it took me a while to get down here. But I didn't see a drop of rain. I understand you had. Well, I'm here. I'm running for re-election in District 5. And I see Mr. Hunt, who is also going to be on the ballot in November for that. But I'm running in District 5. Now, are you at all interested in the District 5 race?
Sure.
Oh, you are? Where you live in District 5?
No, I live in 3.
What?
I live in District 5.
All right. Well, I'll be happy to talk about District 5 and the race. Although the issues are pretty much the same, I guess, in all three of the races, ECUA races. We're concerned about water, sewer, and garbage in all three of them. And although maybe not garbage in the ones that are in the city. Forgot about that. But anyway, okay. I think ECUA is an excellent organization. I have something to judge it by. What it was before, it was what it is now. When I became a board member in 1988, you remember that far back? Well, some of you weren't even born in 1988. But I became a board member in 1988, and it was a broken down, broke, virtually bankrupt organization. It started out that way. The city and the county got together, and they both had water and sewer systems that they wanted to get rid of. And so they got together like two illicit lovers in a shady motel and produced this little offspring and shoved it out the door and heaped all these heaped the water and sewer systems on it and $40 million worth of debt from day one, and said, okay, go take care of yourself. And that's how ECUA got started. It was a terrible start. I was elected, that was in 1981. I was elected to the board 7 years later. So, and I had been on the finance committee from 1985. So I knew pretty much all of that. And even after I got on, the first thing we did after I got on was I provided the third vote for a 22% rate increase for water and sewer. Now, 22% rate increase is terrible. Nobody wants to talk about a double-digit rate increase. But that's what we had to do in order to make the ECUA financially viable at that time. And once we did that, from that time on, we've been able to get along with more moderate increases in rates as time has passed. I will tell you this. Our water and sewer systems are so well run that I don't think you could reduce the rates. I think that's pie in the sky talk. And I think the service levels are quite good. Our sanitation program has done some very nice things in recent years. We went to the compressed natural gas trucks. Compressed natural gas fuel today costs about 1/3 of the cost of diesel fuel. So we saved ourselves $1 million or more a year in operating costs for the sanitation program, which allows us to keep the rates down. Now we are beginning the composting program. We have already begun it. The compost program takes 100% of the yard debris. That's part of the sanitation program. Takes 100% of it, and instead of paying to bury it in the ground, we're converting it into mulch and into compost and selling it for a profit. And that profit will go back into the program to help keep the rates down. In addition to the profit, we're eliminating $1 million a year in costs of paying somebody to take the the yard debris collection and just bury it in the ground. So we're saving that, and that helps to keep the sanitation rates down. It also, that program, the compost program also helps to keep the sewer rate down, because we are reducing by several $100,000 a year our cost for drying sewage sludge at the new plant on King Strand Road. Because some of that sludge, about 20 tons a day, I think it is being put in a relatively wet formula with the mulch to produce the compost. So we are reducing by several $100,000 a year how much natural gas we have to buy to dry the sewage sludge with. So, and all of these savings go back into holding the rates down and or preventing us to do other and better things with our programs. Those are basic, I mean, that's the picture, whether you're talking about District 1, District 3, or District 5, or whatever. It doesn't speak to whether a particular individual board member is doing a good job. I admit that. That's a separate set of issues and arguments. But I think that overall you have a utilities authority that you should be proud of, and that is doing some really neat things. We won a number of national and international awards for some of these things.
Mr. Walker, one of the burning questions I have, and I'm speaking of the former elected official. If you're elected, not you per se, but I'm talking about any elected official, elected to serve the people, why after the election is over with, that representative never have any rapport with the people that voted them in? Now, I hear a lot of conversation about the storage tanks over on Mallory, Halifax, the time of day that the meeting is held, what is going on with the infrastructure for the sewage lines in the city. We had a flood here a couple of years ago, which was a total disaster for everybody. So my question is, if a person is elected to serve the people, what happens with the conversation after the election is over?
Well, I think the conversation should continue. And I've been elected 6 times, and the conversation has continued each time after each election. Not in public forums so much, because there are very few of them, and very few people come to them when you have one. But I make myself available. My phone number and my email are given out to everybody, and I do respond, virtually all the time. And I make myself face-to-face available, especially within my district, which is not down here.
Yeah.
You don't ever see me much down here. I get lost when I come downtown. But up in District 5, which is from 9 Mile Road north, I pretty much know all the by roads and back roads and everything else. And I go to places where people sit around drinking coffee, or where they go for brunch or whatever, and I just sort of make myself available. If anybody wants to talk, we talk. If anybody has a burning issue, they should call me or email me, or should ask to meet with me, and I will be more than happy to do that with anybody. Consider a privilege. And I get a lot of communication. I don't get a lot of requests for one-on-one meetings, but I'd like to. Yes, sir?
What is the total budget of the ECU?
I have to tell you the truth, I don't know. We just approved a budget for the coming year, but I don't remember the total amount. The thing we focus on is the percentage of increase in the rates. That's the thing that we really focus on, and this is going to be 3%.
Just a quick.
Yes, sir. I apologize for not being able to answer your first question.
Right. The infrastructure of Century is in critical condition. Also, what Don't you represent Century also?
I do, but ECUA has no service in Century. The town of Century takes care of its own programs. The water, sewer, natural gas, garbage collection. ECUA provides no services inside the town of Century, and that's because that's the way the town of Century wants it. They want to control their own services with their own local government. When the tornado hit Century a few months ago, Mayor McCall called me and said, Larry, we need some boom trucks up here to get debris out of the roads and the streets. So we don't have any. We managed to borrow a couple of little ones. Could you help us? Could ECUA help us? So I got in touch with staff. Staff started scratching their heads. And the next day there was a large ECUA boom truck up there, a grappler. Pick it up and put it in the bed of the truck and then eventually drive it off to dump it. And we had one up there the next day and it stayed there until the need was finished. So we were happy to try to help the town of Century when we have something they don't have. But they do their own utilities. Yes, ma'am.
You came in after the question was asked, but it's overall for all the districts. What is the process to have the meetings changed so that it's at a more convenient time for residents to attend? Because as we were discussing, obviously before you came in, 2 o'clock is very inconvenient for a lot of working people. So is there a process, and how does one get the process started to consider changing the time?
Well, the process for getting it changed would be for some people to come to a board meeting and insist that we change it. And we would consider doing so. Let me give you a little bit of background. In 1995, after several years of fighting with the older members of the board who had been corrupt and looking for kickbacks under the table and so forth, in 1995, finally, some of them were gotten rid of. One went to the federal prison for bribery conviction. And I became chairman of the authority in 95 for the first time. And I said at that time we were going to do a number of things to try to make ECUA serve the public better. And one of those was that we were going to experiment with having evening meetings rather than afternoon meetings. And so for, I think it was 6 months, we had meetings at either 6 or 7 o'clock in the evening. I don't remember. And the attendance was no greater than it had been at 2 o'clock. And it was the same people, basically.
So it is, and I understand that. That was in 1995, and not to be sarcastic, this is 2016. I see a room full of people that are willing to change. So I guess my question is, if this room full of people were to attend on a regular basis, would that be open for discussion? Because what we had in 1995, we had a little bit less educated people, not as concerned people, and we have a room full of concerned citizens now. And I've been in attendance of the last couple of meetings with Ms. Mitchell, and I agree, there's not a lot of people, but again, we have a room full of working people that are willing to come.
Because you've been to some meetings, you know that if this many people showed up, the board member would be sitting back there thinking, what's going on? What's wrong? What's the issue? You know, because we never have this many people at one of our board meetings. It's just not as of as much interest as county commission meetings or city council meetings. You have quite a few people apparently who would not think of missing either a city council meeting or a county commission meeting, but they just don't think of ECUA that way. They don't think of ECUA as a piece of their government. ECUA doesn't have citizens. We have customers. The city and the county both have citizens. And citizens, well, people who think of themselves as citizens, they'll show up and insist that their voice be heard and so forth. People who think of themselves as customers are less likely to engage themselves with the organization. Unless we raise the rates, a really big job, then we don't have crowds.
There's a question.
Yes.
How do we know when the board meetings are?
The board meetings, most of them are at 2 o'clock on the 4th Thursday of every month. There are some months where it's on the 5th Thursday, and there's some, and in November and December, it's usually on the 3rd Thursday because of the holiday schedule.
It's confusing. Is it on the,
But it's posted on our website.
Okay.
It is posted on our website,
Thank
yes.
you.
Or you can call a board member. If you can't get one board member, you can call another one like me. Yes.
Kind of related to that is, how do you know, is there any process or procedure for publicizing what's on the agenda or, you know, is there, I mean, I'm sure there has to be a written notice of the meeting or something.
I think we post our agendas, meeting agendas on our website.
Yeah,
We don't post all the background reports and so forth.
I mean, honestly, if it
And I
was
think that was pointed out to us recently in an editorial by the Pulse website, and I think they were correct, that we need to get more of that.
Yeah. Because honestly, if it was like even a social media post, I would share it, and more people would be willing to just want to know about it.
This lady right here had her hand up.
Yes, ma'am.
Yeah, that was my question, is that, okay, we've been on the board for 28 years,
24.
24 years, you're saying 88?
I skipped forward.
Oh, okay.
I was out for
ECUA, and you may not know this because you don't really know what the budget is, but ECUA is spending $725,000 a year on advertising, and you're basically the only water and sewer.
I'm sure we didn't want.
$725,000 a year on advertising. So I'm not sure why you can't get the information out to the public better. When you go to your website, you can pull the agenda up, but none of the supporting materials are there. It would be like a blink of an eye for you to do like the city and the county and have the supporting materials so that people could see it. Because like last week, I would have taken off a half a day of work if I'd have known that staff was recommending a 2.1% rate increase, but you guys gave them